This British Grand Prix edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million is up for grabs. Get all the details at circasports.com. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome into another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. We are fresh off the heels of an Austrian Grand Prix that neither Cody and I did not get penalized for track limits. I'm here to tell you right now, Cody, I don't know that the steward's desk has been as busy as it was ever after last week's race in Austria.
Wait a minute. What's that? Oh, 5-second penalty, Rod. Sorry. You just got hit.
I have to serve my time. 5 seconds starting now. All right, I'm good. We can touch the car again. I don't know if that was 5 seconds, but that was probably painful.
That was close. Close enough.
They were like, wait a second, did the feed drop? No, literally, we were serving our 5 seconds.
Literally served our 5-second penalty.
So, listen,
man.
that was nuts. And I know that I'm not, like, I haven't watched a historic amount of Formula One racing, but of the races that I've seen in my life, that had to be the most track penalties or the track limits penalties I've ever seen in a single race, man.
Yeah, that was a lot of penalties. It just, yeah. Maybe that's something we need to review going forward and change the rule at that track. I don't know, but whatever. Here we are.
Well, and what's funny though is that every single radio broadcast that they had, every time somebody kicked the radio, I was like, "Oh, there are track limits. You need to have a look at that." Oh, there, and it didn't matter who it was coming from.
It just turns into a big, but he did it. But hey, mom, but he started it. But he did it. He hit me first. So it's like
tattletales is what they ended up being, like fifth graders. It's like, oh, Johnny went over the line. He crossed the fence. It's like, shut up and drive. Like.
Yeah, that was getting a little ridiculous. All the penalties were getting a little ridiculous. But other than that, exciting race. Max showing us why he's Max. I mean, just literally, it's like he's just playing with us now, right? Like he's just like, oh, guess what I can do? This is funny. Like, man, what a oof, yeah.
So it makes me wonder too, because we've talked a lot about when you're in the moment and you watch somebody dominate like that. I mean, you talk like the Bulls, the Yankees, even the Niners back in the 80s. People didn't like to see them win because they kept winning. All they did was win, no matter what, right? And they stay there. So I don't know. Can you appreciate this in the moment? I have to remind myself every once in a while that 5 years, 10 years down the road from now, I'm going to be looking back at this and going, well, okay, yeah, this was actually really good. But right now I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to see somebody else win. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit about this race too. And coming up, the British Grand Prix, which is what we're here to cover this week. Last season kind of gave us a glimpse of what life could be like without Verstappen in the middle of the winner's circle.
Yeah, it is so tough, right? Because you like to watch greatness, and when we look back on this, it's going to be like, wow, he moved into the top 5 in all-time wins already. Like that floored me that he's already gotten into the top 5 in wins. Obviously, Lewis is at the top of the list, and that's Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, Alain Prost, and then Max is right there at 42, and it's like, whoa, he's I mean, obviously going to win his 3rd straight title in a row. Like he's jumping on that list of great F1 drivers extremely fast. And like, obviously, if he keeps this pace up, like, oh, man, it's insane to think of what he's done over these last 2 seasons, really. I mean, obviously, you know, the season before that where him and Lewis were going back and forth was great as well. But these last 2 seasons specifically, like, wow, it is amazing to watch. At the same time, it's like, I'd really like to see somebody else win. I know Checo got those 2 wins early, right? But he's only 25 too. That's what I was looking. 25, Rod. Man, just think of the possibilities if he sticks around. 25. That's insane. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's 38. So think of 13 more seasons. And Lewis has really just fallen off over the last 2 seasons. Like, think of 13 more years of Max being at this type of level. That's crazy. But it is great to watch, obviously. We're gonna look back and be like, wow, what domination. At the same time, as you're in the middle of it here, like, let somebody else win a race. Like, it gets to the point where he's leading by so much. He argues with the team and, of course, wins the argument because he's Max Verstappen to come pit and get the fastest lap just for shits and giggles. He don't need that point. Like, why even take that risk? That point is going to mean absolutely nothing. But he wants to do it because he can show everybody, hey, look, I do whatever the fuck I want because I'm Max Verstappen and nobody can stop him.
I love it. The team was like, yeah, we don't want to take that risk. And Max was like, I don't care what you want. Like, this is not about you. This is me driving the car back here. I want that fastest lap.
It's that clip from Captain Phillips, right? He's like, I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
And we're going to get this fastest lap because I said so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you the one cashing your paychecks? Because I guarantee you I'm the one out here cashing those paychecks. I'm the one driving my ass off, and you guys can go ahead and just do whatever the hell I want, and this is how it's going to go. So, yeah, I mean, the guy, he's fantastic right now.
It's incredible. And again, it's greatness that we're watching, so you have to appreciate it for that. And luckily, we know how to bet around that, and man, we had another good week.
We sure did. And we'll get into that in a second, but I want to take a second to tell you about our newest addition. It's Circa Sports. Circa Sports and Circa Millions plus Circa Survivor. They are back. You get 14 million in guaranteed prizes, all up for grabs. You get 5 NFL picks against the spread each week from Circa Millions. And then in Circa Survivor, you pick a different moneyline winner each week to continue on and moving. Great thing about it, you can enter this from Las Vegas and you can play anywhere in the world. So you get yourself out to Vegas, enter into this. Doesn't matter if you live in a state like mine where you can't legally do anything, you could still play and still keep your party rolling. Plus, if you go to the great state of Nevada and the great place of Las Vegas in the last weekend of August, getting an opportunity to meet Sean and Ryan of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They will be out there holding it down. If you want all the details better than what I gave you now, go to circasports.com for all of those details. That's circasports.com. A lot of money on the line. I may even fly out to one of these F1 races if I end up winning. I'm sure that's a good way to do it. Cody, I may even fly you out with me if I end up winning that much money. How does that sound?
Same. If I win, I will fly you out as well.
Beautiful. And we have our lock.
Deal.
So I don't know what you would do, but think about it. Start thinking about that for one.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you win, you could fly us out too.
That's true. That's true. All right. Speaking of which, last week we actually did hit some pretty decent bets. Again, we always talk about the fact that you might as well just assume Max is going to win. Why? Because he won again. And you just have to start formulating and building scenarios that benefit you from that win, because betting on him outright is probably not going to win you a lot of money unless you are very, very comfortable with laying minus 300 to try to make that happen, which not a lot of people are. But we found ways to do it anyways, Cody. So quickly we'll run through some of what we got right and got wrong in the last week's Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I started off with Lewis Hamilton plus money, plus 122 to finish on the podium. Did not happen, unfortunately. It was a little bit of a struggle for Lewis. He ends up coming home in 8th. Started the weekend off good. He was 4th in practice, 5th in qualifying, but then the sprint shootout, he was absolutely horrible. The sprint, he did all right, and then in the race. It just, man, after starting up there, he fall back to 8th. Didn't really have anything. Wasn't what I was expecting from Lewis this week.
Yeah, well, he was frustrated. He was one of the ones that was all on the radio talking about track limits because he himself got spanked with a couple of track limits. In fact, he got penalized. It was not a good day for Hamilton.
Yeah,
he was one of the many.
He gets very frustrated with his car. It's much like Kyle Busch over in NASCAR. When they're displeased with how the car is, you will hear about it.
Yeah, he definitely heard about it. Well, we started out pretty good in the sprint shootout. We had Max Verstappen to win and Carlos Sainz on the podium in that sprint race at plus 600. The best one that hit. Well, not the best one, the second best one that hit, but the best one that hit before the actual Grand Prix at 6-1. So that's a fine way to do it. And obviously, again, we knew Max was going to win. It doesn't matter what it is. Max wins. So he won the shootout. But for Carlos Sainz, that was a hell of a run for Carlos. I was very excited to see him actually do well and carry the speed that he carried into the finish of that. It didn't translate to the Grand Prix itself, but hell, it didn't need to for us. All we needed him to do was finish well on the shootout, and he did.
Yeah, this was a great call by you. Again, you assume Max is going to win. That would have been to win the sprint was probably the same thing, probably minus 300, right? So you put the signs in there. He ends up getting it done. Cash is plus 600. Great way to start the weekend. I had over 17.5 classified finishers, minus 118. Yet again, hits. We get 19 classified finishers. We're going to talk about this in a little bit when we cover the bets. They just keep taking more and more away from us, Rod. They're making it harder and harder. We've been cashing it week in and week out. So don't worry, still found a way to bet on it, even though they continue to make it harder.
I mean, they're realizing that it's just this season.
They're getting just killed. I mean, we've cashed this bet. Because it was 16.5 to start the season. So, I think there's only 1 or 2 weeks total. I think it's only been 1 week where whatever classified bet we've placed as far as the main one, we've tossed in some exact ones as well at longer shots, but the main over-under on the classified finishers, I think we've hit all but 1 week this entire season. So they're feeling it for sure. And you could tell based on how they're moving the line, how they're moving the numbers, it's starting to get ridiculous.
Well, again, they know that these guys are starting to drive a little more cleanly. I mean, last season, this British Grand Prix had a pretty spectacular wreck. So
yeah,
Yuki Tsunoda just went flying over the barrier.
Scary wreck. Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully he was fine. But yeah, I mean, maybe this is the week, but I don't think so. I think this is a season where they've been driving so cleanly and so. I mean, you say cleanly, but they've been touching and bumping and banging quite a bit, but they haven't been wrecking each other. So. Definitely good. All right, this next one was pretty simple. It was Zhou Guanyu over Nico Hülkenberg. I talked about taking the plus money side of it. We got this at plus 100. Nico Hülkenberg didn't even finish the race. Kind of lost it early. Got wrecked out. Or he actually, what was it? He ended up driving off of the side of the track. It was the power unit that went out for him.
Yeah,
and that was it. That ended his day. He only got 12 laps in. Obviously, Zhou Guanyu finished in 12th. Didn't matter. He ran better anyways, and even if Nico Hülkenberg could have gone back onto the track, he'd have been several laps down, and that would have cashed this bet for us. So pretty simple there. After 12 laps, you knew you cashed this one, so hopefully you doubled up on it.
Yeah, exactly. That made it nice and easy, right? When they go out early like that, makes it an easy cash. Obviously, he was the one guy that wasn't classified as he went out early. My big one, I had the winner without Max Verstappen. Of course, Max wins so much. They offer basically who's going to finish second place or next best to Max. And I had that at Charles Leclerc 8-1. That one cashed for me. A little bit of a sweat. I thought Sainz was going to catch him for a while. Then luckily Sainz held up Perez enough, so Perez couldn't catch him because that was starting to look a little scary. I know ended up finishing a ways back, but as fast as he was coming, I was starting to get concerned. And so, yeah, but man, held on and cashed this one 8-1.
This one, yeah, I mean, tell you right now, with and even with Ferrari double pitting, they had slow pit stops under that virtual safety car. I thought for sure that was going to come back to bite both of them in the ass. I didn't think that either one of them was going to rebound from those slow pit stops, but yes, they did. And yeah, definitely Charles Leclerc coming through clutch, and he needed that. He needed a good finish. He needed at least a second place finish to Max. Nobody's catching Max, so I guess the best you could take away from a race is whether or not you finish second place. Like it's almost just the de facto winner amongst all the rest of the drivers, right? It's like Max is going to win. Who else can win? who can win second place is what you're going for after that.
Yeah, well, and then you end up with, I mean, Max, because of the way the safety car worked out and how they pit strategies changed, was the first time Max in 295 laps, I think it was, that Max didn't lead a lap finally, and I think it was Shaw that led the lap, but it was just like, man, that just not only has he been just dominating and winning his races, but 295 laps in a row when we're only running, 60, 70 laps a race. Jeez, man, this dominance is insane.
It is. And then I had Valtteri Bottas to finish inside the points at plus 300. This was a long shot for a reason. Bottas, not even a factor in the top 10 mix at all, ends up finishing in 15th. It just wasn't, there was no way. He was a lap down. He didn't have the speed. He didn't have the pace at all this race. And so unfortunately his Alfa Romeo was not the greatest. In fact, Joe Guan Yu was the top finishing Alfa Romeo in 12th, still didn't even finish in the points. So just not a good time there. It was a long shot for a reason. So unfortunately it didn't hit.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's why we toss those out, right? Especially those more teams on the lower side of things. You don't really know going into the week, so try to find some value. There was good points made. It just didn't quite work out for him. I had Max to win by 5 seconds. I gave this out at plus 160. I think it was actually minus 160. I think I had written it down wrong, but either way, by the sweat on your pants, this one barely cashed. Obviously, Max had a 27, 29 second lead when he pitted, gave it up, and dipped below 5 seconds, and he worked it back up to 5.155 over Shaw there at the end. So did cash this one, but man, close one.
On the last
made you sweat for it. Yeah,
on the last lap, he filled that
going for that fastest lap. He just stretched it out far enough.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, I had Hamilton and Alonso to finish on the podium. That was a boost of plus 260 on Caesars. Let's just forget that ever happened. Alonso not even a factor at all in the mix. And then, of course, we talked about Hamilton's struggles and the penalties. So, yeah, unfortunately. And it wasn't like a bad finish for Alonso anyways. He
finished in fifth. It
but
seems like, man, after his string of podium finishes, though, been a little bit disappointing for Alonso since then. And going to be interesting to see if they find some more speed or if they keep sort of falling off a little bit.
We'll have to see, but that'll be the end of the Austrian Grand Prix. Again, a couple of good bets that we hit. Happy to do it. But we need to look ahead to the British Grand Prix because that's
2 weeks in a row we get an F1 race, Rod.
I don't know what kind of world we live in, but I want to live in this forever. So I love it.
Can we just keep this, please?
I think we can. But you know what else we can keep? We can keep playing Underdog Fantasy because we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Enter as many Best Ball Mania 4 contests as your heart can handle. Underdog is giving away $15 million in prizes. Last I checked, that is a hell of a lot of money. Underdog Pick'em is also a way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. So many ways to win over on Underdog. Of course, it's always available in as many states as you can handle as well. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com right now. Use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. All right, Cody. Well, as I said, it is the British Grand Prix over in Silverstone. We move to the next part of this. I'm telling you right now, this track, I know I always like to say what it looks like. You got me. I have zero clue what this track actually looks like, other than to say, if you turn your head to the side, maybe a small revolver. That might be the only thing I can think of for this circuit. It's definitely not anything that I can think of. It's just a little over 3 miles at 5.891 kilometers. Race distance is 306.198 kilometers. Cody's still trying to.
I'm turning my head. I'm trying to figure it out.
What do you even think?
I don't know how you're getting a revolver out of this. I don't know.
I just turned my head to the side. I don't know. It's like the little snub nose, one of those little like toy one type things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's close as we're gonna get. I don't know.
I don't know. If you have a better one, let us know in the comments.
There you go.
109 miles is this. The lap record for this this track set by Max Verstappen in 2020, 127.097. I mean, go figure, right? That's Max Verstappen. You might as well just go ahead and plant them all over the place. 18 turns in this track. It is very weavy. It is very treacherous. It is highly possible for many people to get into several different scrapes and scraps through this. 2 DRS zones, one very short one between 10 and 11, one almost equally as short one there in the turn 2 and 3 vicinity. So not a lot of room to overtake with DRS, which could play into other teams' advantages, as we know that Red Bull's DRS is pretty much superior to anybody else's in the world. So yeah, there could be the possibility of several things happening that is not in Red Bull's favor. Talked about it last, just before we got going with the episode, pretty much. Last time out, Max Verstappen did not actually win this race. It was very odd for that to happen, but he didn't win, and it was Carlos Sainz that ended up winning this race. So hold on, I have to double check. I closed the tab. You know, this is the thing about trying to be more efficient with yourself, is that when you start closing tabs, just like,
I think it was Carlos Sainz.
it was Carlos Sainz.
Yes.
Absolutely was. So, but again, Max Verstappen was starting there on the outside with them as well. And it turned into him having problems in that race. Mechanical issues stop Max. The only thing that can stop Max Verstappen is mechanical issues. But it's like we tell you week in and week out, assume Max Verstappen is going to win. But on the off chance that he has issues and has problems, he finished in 7th that day. And this turned into a race with fantastic racing all up and down of it, because you had Carlos Sainz, you had Perez, you had Hamilton, you had Leclerc, all in there in the mix. Like I said, Sainz ends up beating Perez by 3 seconds to win this race, but just went to prove that somebody other than Max Verstappen can win this race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, it's amazing to think of a race that Max didn't win. But again, things can happen, right? We saw that crazy wreck in turn 1. I think it was the first turn, wasn't it? It was very, very early right in the race. And things can happen. So you've got to plan for that as well. Obviously, you pretty much go into it thinking Max is going to win this. But just in case he doesn't, you got to watch out.
I agree. All right, well then let's get set up for this race. Again, 52 laps in this, so kind of a short race on this weekend. But yeah, let's go ahead and start setting up some bets for this British Grand Prix, shall we?
Let's do it, Rod. First up for me. So we were talking in the recap portion there about the classified finishers. Started the season 16.5 was the way we started it. Over 16.5 is now minus 500. So we're done playing that for sure. Last week we played over 17.5. That's been kicked up to minus 175 now. So we're going to play it a little differently. We're going to go a little riskier here. Back off a little bit on how much we're putting on it, right? We've been winning a ton on it, but we're going to go with over 18.5 at plus 175 over on DraftKings. I still feel like even at 18.5, I mean, again, last week we had 19 classified finishers. Every single race has had at least 17 classified finishers so far this season. 4 of the last 5 races have gone over the 18 number. And 2 of them have been the perfect 20 as far as 20 classified finishers, everyone being classified at the end of the race. So we're going to do over 18.5 plus 175. Also going to toss out exactly 20 classified finishers, so the entire field being classified, plus 600 over on DraftKings. There was an over 19.5, and it was like plus 400. So why not just do 20? Because that's the only way to get over 19.5. So you watch for those little nuances like that where they'll try and get you. So over 18.5 plus 175, exactly 20 plus 600. They might keep adjusting this because we're taking it all from them, Rod, but we're not going to stop. We'll just keep attacking it and try and hit it this way now.
Trying to catch us sleeping, aren't they?
That's right.
Like, let's see if they're paying attention. Well, guess what, books? We are.
We can adjust and move forward.
Yes, we can. All right, I am going to take a unique angle that I don't know we've actually done this type of a bet on the show before. It's a qualifying bet, and I am seeing qualifying time between. So the qualifying winner is between 0.1, and this is a little difficult too because it's like I'm trying to explain it to you, and yet it feels like it's not being explained properly. But the qualifying times between first and second is between 0.1 and 0.25 seconds. So that's at plus 285 over on DK. We're talking fractions of a fraction of a second. And really in F1, when it's not Max Verstappen winning by 6 years, then it usually comes down to fractions of seconds on these speed times and especially on qualifying. And I say that because if you take a look back at the last few qualifying times, last week in Austria, Max Verstappen threw down in Q3, man, this is the final qualifying time, 1:04.391. Charles Leclerc 1:04.439. That is well within that 0.1 to 0.25 range. If my math is right, if not, please call me out because I'm not very smart, like I said. Canada, that actually kind of blew through Max Verstappen. That was a weird one anyways. Max Verstappen 125.858. Nico Hulkenberg was number 2 on that list at 127.102. So obviously that didn't cash. But Spain before that, Verstappen at 112.272, and then Carlos Sainz at 112.737. So that one didn't hit. Monaco did though at 111.365 for Verstappen. Fernando Alonso 111.449. Just so many crazy. It just comes down to a fraction of a second, and it's usually no more than 2.5 tenths of a second. So I'm definitely thinking that these guys, they tend to keep it close when it comes to qualifying. Now, granted, when it comes out on the track, it all goes to hell. But for qualifying, it tends to be pretty quick, and especially those last few laps where they're like, oh, and so just took it by a tenth of a second, and so just took it by another tenth of a second. So you get all excited. Took a look at last year here in Britain. Carlos Sainz won the pole. 140.983 was his time. And then Verstappen in second, 141.055. Razor thin margin there for the pole and the second place as well. So like I said, I mean, these guys in Q3, they don't normally blow everybody out. They're normally right there within a few tenths of a second from each other, trying to get the pole. And I mean, this is actually the one with the longest odds. It's pretty weird to see that as the longest odds on this one, but at plus 285, I like it. I want it. Load up on it.
Yeah, I love this way to bet on it. Again, they keep getting so creative with the ways we can bet on Formula One. Love to see it. I think this is a great call out by you, and it does seem like every time we get to Q3, it's like that last lap, everybody's on their last lap, and it's like, oh, he took it. Oh, he took it. Oh, here comes Max. Max always wins it, of course, but he's always the last one that steals it at the end, right? So I think this is a good call. It seems to be they are very razor thin margins when it comes to qualifying.
Well, and also because to win the pole, I mean, again, they're even getting smart on having having who actually is going to win the pole. So to win the pole for Max Verstappen is minus 300. I mean, of course, anybody who can win the pole for this bet and have that qualification, but if Max wins the pole and he wins it by only that much, you're still plus money on Max Verstappen winning the pole, right? That's how you get creative.
And that's how you have to get creative, right? Of course, Max is probably going to win the pole. So how's he going to do it? That's the same thing where we were betting the over 10 seconds to win. Now that one's been priced out because he's done it so many times, right? And they keep adjusting, and we're going to keep adjusting with them. But this is, again, another way to attack it, assuming Max does it. And it gives you coverage in case it is someone else as well. So I like it. Next up for me, I'm going to go to the winner without the big four teams. So Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin are all not included. I'm going to take McLaren at plus 135. Originally, I was going to take this bet with Lando at plus 150, but then I figured to get only drop 15 points at plus 135, might as well get the coverage with Piastri. But to a similar point you're going to make here in a minute, Lando has been very, very good lately and very good at this track, right? We saw the McLaren, the first phase of the McLaren upgrade last week, ends up finishing in 4th place, has a great run. Go back to last season, he was 6th place here, 4th place in 2021, 5th place in 2020. Lando's been very good here. And again, this gives you coverage on Piastri if Piastri ends up being the one to do it. But this is a circuit that Lando likes very much. He's very comfortable with, continues to get good, solid results here. And so obviously Ocon, kind of the next biggest competitor with this, right, with the Alpine guys. But I do think that it's going to be another McLaren week. And at plus 135, I'll take them to be the first manufacturer besides the big 4.
Well, and it's something you said that because for Lando, I'm actually seeing him as a top 8 over on Barstool. They're only offering yes or no. The no side of this is plus money, which can seem tempting given the fact that you just never know what's going to happen and things can get crazy. But I will say that I very much like Lando Norris here, especially given the fact that in, let's see, he's had 5 career starts in this, and he's only finished outside of the top 8 twice. He's had a 5th place finish in 2020, a 4th place finish in 2021. Last year here, he finished 6th place, and he's just been one of those steady good guys, and he's gotten better. Like you said, as far as last week, you saw that upgrade. He was hanging. In fact, he was battling with Lewis Hamilton there for a while. He was battling with Carlos Sainz there for a while. Like anybody that was coming up to him, he was battling him. He did finish in 4th, like you said. So that was his best finish. And if these upgrades are going to be exactly that, then I think we're going to see a good finish from Lando Norris. I can definitely see a top 8 finish out of him. Look, at Monaco, he finished in 9th, so just outside of that top 9 or top 8 rather. Baku, he finished in 9th, so he's had a couple of good, solid 9th place finishes. Melbourne, right? He finished in 6th place over there in Australia. So he's there. He's there. And if we can take anything from what we saw last week in those upgrades, I know minus 150 seems like a lot to lay on it, but Cody, what?
You only pay the juice if you lose, Rob.
And that's it. I don't think we're going to lose on this one. And this is not as much juice as you're going to lay down if you're going to bet on a Verstappen pole at minus 300. If you're going to bet on a Verstappen to win this race at minus infinity, like it's just, there's no reason to not take this risk because I think this is going to cash. I think Lando Norris is even good for a top 6 finish. So if you really want to get kind of froggy with that, but the only thing that gives me pause on a top 6 finish here is that it's just, there's a lot of gremlins that can jump up at you. And I don't know if I'm that comfortable with a top 6, but you could make a case to me and I wouldn't mind hearing it about him as a top 6 car.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually the first bet of mine that just didn't quite make the cut. This was the first one that hit the cutting room floor. So I really like this one as well. I'm glad that you put it in there so we could talk about it. And yeah, I think even at minus 150, again, in F1, more so than other forms of motorsports, NASCAR, IndyCar, like F1, you can lay the juice a little more often because a lot of things are more predictable there. So I think it's a good play as well. Next up for me, I'm going to lay a little bit of juice on Checo. Again, Barstool, and this is also in the specials section, right? They have Checo to finish in the top 2. Yes or no is the options. Yes is that plus money. I'm going to go with no at minus 136. I get it, right? Red Bull's obviously been good. Red Bull's the only one that's won any races, but you have to go back 5 races since the last time Checo finished in 2nd place. Was he super fast last week? Absolutely. Tore through the field, had a great finish, right? But, started towards the back, had struggles in qualifying. He's just not, I know we like to praise Red Bull and anybody could maybe win in that Red Bull, but could they? Because even Checo is having his fair share of struggles in it. And I know early in the season, right? It was 1st and 2nd every week for these guys. He got the best of Max a couple of times, but since then it's fallen off. And it's been 5 races since he finished 2nd place at Miami. And I think that with all, the upgrades we've seen, Ferrari seems to have hit on something. Mercedes looked for a minute like they hit on something. Maybe that's fallen off. Alonso still had a good season. And even now McLaren's running a little better here. I think there's enough other things that can happen and can go wrong. And to finish in the top 2, you already know Max has got one of those spots, right? That's the most likely thing that's going to happen. So one of those spots is already taken by Max. There's only one other spot in the top two, and you have to hand that out between Checo, between the two Ferrari guys, between the two Mercedes guys, between Alonso. That's 6 different guys that have a real legit shot at that second place finish. So to get no at minus 136 when it hasn't happened in 5 races, I'm going to take that side of it and hope that Checo struggles in qualifying, maybe doesn't make it to Q3 again, and it has to do some work from the back. Doesn't quite get to this. Seems like the much safer side, in my opinion. So Checo to finish in the top 2. Going to go with the no option, minus 136 on Barstool.
However, there is a world in which Sergio Perez can actually get back to form and end up winning a race on this one. If you go to FanDuel, guys, I'm telling you right now, there are some very creative, different bets on this. And I love how FanDuel has it set up where they have these specials from, plus 1,100 to plus 3,500. They really do kind of lay out a bunch of different scenarios. And it's fun to kind of scroll through them and read through them as if you're watching a Marvel what if thing. It's like, what if Max Verstappen was not in this race? And you can play out scenarios that have all of this. One of my favorite ones, and one that I think is going to hit, because there's some like Lance Stroll to win and for Pierre Gasly to be on the podium. I'm like,
it'd have to be that last year's crash times 5 for that to happen.
Well, and then I'm thinking to myself, are we playing the F1 video game? Because that's probably one of the only ways that we can make that happen. But this one actually has a legit shot, I think, in my opinion. It's Perez to win and Lewis to be on the podium at 19-1. One of the bigger Formula One bets that you'll see that has this type of actually, I guess, power behind it.
Legit shot to actually hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Perez, we talked about it already, right? Perez is the only other driver that has won a race this season with Max Verstappen. He won at Jeddah, he won at Baku, and he's finished in second place a couple times in that vicinity. Last week, he did climb his way back up to a third place finish from 15th. If it's not Max, it's Sergio. That's just the way it's been this season. And I think if we're going to live in a world where it's not Max, I get it. Cody made a ton of good points against Perez possibly not being that guy. He has struggled, but when struggling means you've had 3 top 6 finishes, right? A 4th place a few weeks ago, 6th in Canada, 3rd last week. Then I'll take struggling all day long, especially when you've started 11th, 12th, and 15th and climb your way back into the podium once, just outside the podium the other 2 times. I mean, that's something that I think you can take with you and say, if he qualifies well, if he does everything against what Cody had just said, he stands a good chance to win should Max have any sort of problems whatsoever. This track, like I said, it's a very intricate track. There's a lot of technicalities that you got to go through on this one. And in fact, last year, he finished second here after a 4th place start. So he's no stranger to the podium. All he needs to do is just get one more step up in order to cash this. If Lewis Hamilton can do exactly what he's done, holy cow, man. You literally have to go all the way back to 2013 for the last time Lewis Hamilton has not been on the podium on this track. 2022, 3rd place. 2021, he won. 2020, 2nd place. 2020, again, he won. 2019, he won. 2018, 2nd. 2017, 1st. 2016, 1st. 2015, 1st. 2014, 1st. Stop me if you have heard that before.
That's
Lewis Hamilton
an impressive run.
I'm telling you right now. Now, listen, has he been that driver this season? Yes and no. I mean, last week, obviously, he documented his problems over there in Austria, 8th place finish for him. But before that, 2 podium finishes in Canada, and the week before that as well, 2nd place finish just outside of the podium in Monte Carlo. He has been on the podium in Australia this season. At 19-1, this is a pretty heavy dart. And I think that this dart has a good opportunity to hit should Max run into any problems. If you want to pay the juice on a Hamilton podium finish, go ahead. But I want to find a more creative way to put Hamilton on the podium since that dude lives there in Britain. I mean, that's his home track, right? This is his home track. So he shows out well. And if you even want to put anything from outright, that's fine on you too. But I'd much rather take this one and have it hit for me 19-1.
Yeah, no, I really like this one actually. Like you said, this is one of those longer shot parlays, but one that's got a legit shot of hitting, right? I know I just made the case for Perez to not finish in the top 2, but that doesn't mean he's not in the best car out there. Doesn't mean he can't win. He's probably the only guy that can if he can get ahead of Max. So if he comes out, starts on the pole, and Max ends up 4th or 5th or farther back, he's the one guy, and he's proved it so far already this season, that can hold Max off and get the win. So you've got that opportunity. If Max has an issue, if Max doesn't start up front, and these things, we've seen the wreck like we had last year, right? Anything can happen. So if that happens, then Perez is the next most likely candidate. If he can get up there, Lewis obviously been pretty automatic lately in the podium. So I think at 19-1, you're getting a lot of good value there. Need a little help, but this isn't, like you said, a stroll to win where it's like, okay, now you're really pushing your luck and then asking something else to happen. Geez, like you're really going out on a limb there. This is something that has the capability of happening and has happened this season, right? Perez has won multiple races. Lewis has been on multiple podiums. So it's something that can very easily happen and is a nice hedge just in case something happens to Max or Max doesn't get it done somehow, some way.
Keep an eye open for my for frequency sake article this week. I may find a way to work Lewis winning into this one. I didn't want to find a way on the show because I know that I tend to save my more riskier bets for that one.
Was this? I mean, man, this. I don't want to write your article for you, but he finally gets a win after not having a win for multiple seasons. He does it at home. Is this the final victory for Lewis Hamilton, the greatest of all time, the 7-time champion? Man, it's a storybook song, right? And we talk about that a lot. Sometimes those storybooks find a way of happening. So I like it.
Yeah, they sure do. Speaking of what I like that you guys are actually watching this F1 gambling podcast on YouTube. I know we put it on the NASCAR gambling channel, but the fact that you guys are still watching it, still riding along with us, it's fantastic. And it's great. And it's a great way to grow, not just this one, but also the NASCAR gambling podcast. And for those of you who are actually listening to this F1 gambling podcast on the NASCAR gambling podcast feed, I hope you continue to like it. I mean, you guys you've stuck with us. I have not seen any dip in any consumption of this. So you guys tend to like having this on your feed. Hopefully you stick with us and we can continue to win you some money on the F1 side of this and maybe convert some of you guys to being F1 fans with us, because ultimately that's our goal. We want to have fun with you each and every week. For those of you who have still listened on the OG feed, we love you for that as well. I mean, listen, you guys have been with us since the beginning, and we're going to continue to ride together and see where this thing goes. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube right now, we appreciate it. Continue to comment, continue to like, subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast channel, and eventually maybe this one gets a channel of its own. If enough of you guys decide that you want to keep supporting it, we can branch this out. And who knows, maybe we can take this to multiple episodes a week, and Cody and I will really not ever not see each other again. So continue to see each other all the time, not see our families again, I guess is what it is. So yep, but we do love grandmas and we do love all that stuff, so continue to watch us. If they're watching on the NASCAR, they know
beautiful execution as always. And if you are listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast feed, hit the subscribe button on whatever platform on the F1 Gambling Podcast as well, and keep the bosses happy for us.
I always feel like that kid trying to dismount off of the bars, the uneven bars, and just falls flat on his face at the end of every one of those reads. Like those TikTok videos where you have to rewatch and go, oh yeah,
there he goes.
Did it again. All right. Well, there's got to be a winner in this race. If it's Max Verstappen, how? If it's not, how?
Yep, winner is Max Verstappen. All right, good night. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.
But again, you'd be a bet around knowing that that's the case. So like we did last week, we're going to go with the winner without Max Verstappen as Carlos Sainz this week, 10-1. It's been not the best season ever for him this season, right? He doesn't have a podium finish this year so far, but he was 4th place last week. And on the season, despite not having a podium, he's only got one finish worse than 8th place. So he's been consistent. We've seen a little bit of a step up from Ferrari, and last week I think was a big showcase of that, right? Shaw looked fast. Sainz looked fast there for a while. Obviously, Checo caught him at the end, but he was running extremely well. He won this race last year, so that's a drop in his bucket to the good side, right? He had a 6th place here in 2021. He had a 6th place finish here in 2019 and when he was with McLaren. So he's run well at this track before. Things seem to be going pretty good for Ferrari. This worked last week to our favor with taking Charles Leclerc. He had good track history there. He showed up. He cashed the 8-1 for us. I think he's like 4-1 this week. So obviously his odds dropped a lot. I think Sainz at 10-1 here is kind of sitting in that perfect spot, especially like these are the types of bets that I think are really good to get on early in the week, because if he comes out and he's super fast in practice, if he qualifies well, like you're not going to be able to get this type of bet at that point because it's going to be completely cooked. So you get in on this type of bet early, you get good value. If it hits like it did last week with Shaw, then we're real happy. And I think that Ferrari continues to kind of be on the upswing a little bit here, and they're kind of trying to establish themselves as that second team to Red Bull and seem to be the next best team, I think, in my opinion, at this point in time. So if you're giving me, obviously, Checo, I'm hoping he doesn't finish second, because that would cook this bet, cook the no for him to finish second. He's always a threat, but I do think that Sainz is going to have something for him this week, and at 10-1 to be the winner without Max, I think there's good value there.
And for Carlos Sainz, I mean, he did obviously, like I said, finish second in that sprint shootout. So the possibility for him to be up there is huge. And I think a lot of what happened last week, especially in Austria, just came down to that horrific pit stop under the virtual safety car. I mean, those guys, and I think both Sainz and Leclerc should have just stayed out, especially because I don't know that they needed to come in and put themselves back in the fray. Thankfully, they salvaged a good finish for Leclerc, but I think Sainz kind of got screwed the most out of all of that, and I think he would have benefited from being able to stay out. So, yeah, I think they learn from that strategy call. They'll come back swinging again, and I think at this point, I like that. I like Sainz to come back for a good one. All right, I stole the next one from you because I got to the dock in this one first. DraftKings has Max Verstappen to win and set the fastest lap at -110. He's 350 to win. Hold on. He is 360 to win now on DraftKings. He is 350 to win on BetMGM. It's 290 to win, all minus, obviously not plus. When we talk about Max Verstappen, just know we're talking minus. We're not talking plus. Minus 360 to win on DraftKings. So if you want to figure out a way to bet on him to win and actually not pay a hell of a lot of juice, -110 is a much, much easier number to swallow than -360. And as far as the fastest lap is concerned, I won't even need to point to anything other than last week where he was like, I want this, I'm going to go get it. Like, he's a dude that has a platinum credit card, and it doesn't matter what he wants. He could just plop it down and get it, right? It's like, but Max, that is a $500,000. Yeah. And he pulls out his black or titanium or whatever. I don't know what color those type of cards are.
I've never seen one of those cards.
I was going to say, mine is usually green and it says prepaid on it. So I don't even know what this, and it's only got about $5 on it. So I don't know what those cards look like. Whatever the unlimited card is, Max plops it down and gets what he wants. So if it looks like he can get the fastest lap in that race, he's going to end up going out for it. He'll probably end up getting it. So at -110, we saw it out there for around -130 in a couple of spots, but DK has it better at 110. If you can find that Max to win in fastest lap at an even better price, not much out there better than -110, but again, if you can find it, I would definitely take it. I'd probably take it up to probably -150, where the Red Bull fastest lap or fastest pit stop is right now at -150, which shout out to that one. They didn't get it last week. It was McLaren that got it, but they're poised to get it again this week. So if you want to take that one as well. But anyways, my official bet is the Max Verstappen to win and set the fastest lap at -110.
Yeah, I saw this one. I raced over to the dock. I went to go type it in, and Rod had beaten me. So I fully backed this one. Props to you, Rod. Good job. But yeah, no, this is again, you've got to find ways to bring the price down to bet on Max. He's proven if he feels like getting the fastest lap, we saw it earlier this season, right? Where Checo had the fastest lap and they said, don't worry about it. And he said, fuck you. And he went and did it. Last week, leading by 27 seconds, comes in pits, takes the big risk of something going wrong just to set the fastest lap for nothing. What is he? He gets a point that doesn't matter. I think he's already clinched the championship for the next 5 years, or with the amount of points he has. Like, and he just does it because he can. So, yes, bet on that because it's the most likely thing that's going to happen. And when you get it down to minus 110, much easier to swallow than laying minus 360 for him just to win the race.
Hey, and if you play to the whistle, right? Coaches will tell you all the time, you play to the whistle. You never let up. It's just you never know. He could totally barf out for the next few weeks and really set himself up for failure and needing those points. That could happen. I don't see that happening, but listen, at this point,
happen? Is that even possible?
I don't know which Android version of Max Verstappen they're on for this coming week, but the dude, I bet if he feels sick, they just bust out another one and like break him out of the packaging and put him in there. That's where we're at this point.
He's
but
basically a robot at this point. I think
you're
on to something.
Max Verstappen version 15.0 or whatever. They've been replacing him every once in a while. But honestly, again, if you are tired of hearing us talk about Max Verstappen, you're probably watching the wrong racing circuit and you're listening to the wrong show, because that's all you can talk about at this point.
But I mean, it's like the NFL not talking about Tom Brady, or the NBA not talking about LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Like, he's to that level. Like, he is that. It's just, I mean, in NASCAR, Jimmy Johnson won 5 championships in a row. Like, they were going to talk a lot about Jimmy Johnson during that time. Like, that's just how it goes. And despite that, we're still finding ways to be successful and using that as part of how we make some of these bets. Like, that's why you cashed that 6-1, right? Because you filled in the auto part of Max winning, and then all you had to do is hit signs on the podium, and boom, you hit it, you cash, you hit the plus 800, because they don't give you an option for most drivers to finish second place, but they give you an option for the winner without Max, and that's how you hit a plus 800. Like, so while it sucks in ways, it's still, this is how you keep the rest of the race exciting, and you still can make money with it. So I know we say the same thing every week, but it needs to be reiterated, I feel like.
And this could be your first time listening to the show,
yes,
so maybe we have to.
So welcome. Yes.
So we have to allot for that as well. All right. Speaking of which, let's allot for the fact that you need to get going. So we're going to recap all the bets for you so that you can go on your way and start putting together your cards. So get out your pen and paper. Here we are. Cody started you out with the classified winners over 18.5. They're catching up with us at plus 175 over on DraftKings. If you want the exact 20, if you don't think anybody's going to wreck out of this race, that's 6-1 over there on DK as well. I like that one. I really hope that one hits, because I hate seeing cars go out, but 20 exact finishers at plus 600. I said that the qualifying time was going to be between 0.1 and 0.25 seconds at plus 285 over on DK. Cody gave you out the winner without the big 4 teams as McLaren at plus 135. I said Lando would finish as a top 8 car in this race at minus 150 over on Barstool. Cody said that Checo would not finish inside the top 2 at minus 136 over on Barstool. I said that Perez, if this magical world that we live in happens to be without Max Verstappen and he bows out with electrical issue or whatever, Perez would win and Lewis would be on the podium at almost 20-1 at plus 1900 over on FanDuel. Cody said the winner without Max would be Carlos Sainz at 10-1. And then, of course, I gave you the Max Verstappen win and fastest lap bet at minus 110 over on DraftKings. The British Grand Prix. Cody, Lewis Hamilton going home, George Russell going home. Hopefully Mercedes has a good day there. Hopefully we have a good day there, and we're patting each other on the back next week about how fantastic we handicapped this race.
I'm looking forward to it. Should be another good one for second place anyways. And I'm excited. No, 2 races in a row as well. We'll take a week off, but then we're back for another 2 races before we take like a month off between races. So enjoy them while they're around. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm excited, and good times too. It's 10 o'clock lights out Eastern time, which puts that at like, that's what, 7 o'clock your time. So it's not too bad on the West Coast over there. Get a cup of coffee and wake up and enjoy the race.
I love it. And I'll do it too, because, why not? 7 o'clock's a good time to wake up and watch the race on a Sunday morning. So
there you go.
All right. Well, Cody, let's go ahead and get out of here. Let's let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work there. Got a bunch of NFL stuff out, more NFL stuff coming out this week, all that fun stuff. Check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. And follow us on Twitter over at F1 Gambling Pod.
Indeed. Again, once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. If you're listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast feed, thank you for listening to that as well. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between media. The back road is cocking Atlanta this week. And then, of course, follow my work on For Frequency's Sake. We will see you again. We'll talk next week. We'll recap this race next week and talk a little bit about stuff. Maybe we'll have a fun guest on for F1. Maybe. We'll see. Keep posted. So we'll see you then. And until next time, let's go racing and let it ride.